everybody, my name is Victoria. Welcome back to my channel. I'm bringing back my husband Julio, and we are talking about the movies and TV shows that we finished watching in the month of June. So usually how we do these videos is we have a scale of 10 points or 10 stars, and we will go ahead and give a grade. Each of us will pick a grade, and normally we agree pretty closely, but I don't know, we'll see if there's any differing opinions on this round.
Mm-hmm.
There probably won't be.
It's a short list this month.
It's a much shorter list this month, so it won't be an hour long. That's good. So the first show that we finished this completely, was Mad Men. We did finish Mad Men, so this was the second time that Julio had watched it and the first time that I had watched it. So I'm going to give my initial thoughts as a new person to the show. But Mad Men, I was waiting for a long time for them to get to the point. I felt like there was no point to it for a long time. And I think finally in season 7 and like how it wraps up, I finally understood that the show's really just like a character study on Don Draper. And that's basically the whole point of it. It's really just a character study. And I understand now. I think looking back, it makes the rest of the show make sense for me. It isn't like an amazing show to me. It's not like a standout that I would watch again. I don't think I would rewatch Mad Men. But I can see why you liked it, and I can see why it has
what are some of the reasons
following.
you think that I like it?
Because it's historical.
Yeah.
It's the historical setting. The costumes, the production value is very high.
Yes.
And so those things are definitely fun about the show. From a storytelling perspective, I was not a big fan. So I would give it a 7. I think it's a 7 out of 10 for me.
Whoa, a 7?
Yeah.
That's not very high.
I know you would think that was low.
It is low.
For me, I feel like I'm being generous.
I agree. It's not. Mad Men is not excellent storytelling. It's excellent showing a picture of what it would have been to be like.
It's like a snapshot.
Yes, it's an excellent snapshot, and I think that's what makes the show excellent. I think it has some really high value production. Like the production of the show is immaculate.
It is. I'll give it that.
So I think the production, the characters are very one-dimensional, I think.
I don't think they're one-dimensional. Predictable, I would say.
More predictable is what I meant, yeah.
Yeah.
I rewatched Mad Men because it had been years since I had seen it. I actually saw it on TV right before Netflix, right before I became a Netflix subscriber.
So you were watching it like episode by episode.
Yeah, and we had to wait.
You had to wait a week.
So
what's that
was
like?
my experience. So I had forgotten a lot of the stuff that had happened in Mad Men, and it was nice to be able to watch it again and be reminded of some of the things that I completely forgotten about. Yes, it does talk about the era of the 60s. They're documented fairly well.
That part's really interesting.
It's a really good glimpse into what everyday life would have been like, in addition to what people living in the time, how they would have experienced some momentous historical events.
Those parts were cool. I liked that.
Don Draper was very predictable for the first 5 seasons.
It was formulaic for a while, which I think was the part of it that made me go, where is this going? Why should I watch this show? It's just formulaic.
But the last season was actually really good.
And it also breaks away from the formula of it.
And it had a little bit of like these fantasy pictures and images in Don's head. Like he would imagine stuff, where he would hallucinate and make like see things that weren't necessarily there, and some of them were quite quirky. And I particularly enjoyed a dancing Bert Cooper. That was awesome. So yeah, I mean there were little quirks that made the last season really fun.
Yeah.
So overall, as a work, since we did finish watching all of it in immediate sequence, I would give it an 8.5.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean 9.
That sounds right.
It'd be pushing it, but it does. I would watch it again as well, even now. But I think it deserves at least an 8.
I wouldn't watch it over something that I want to watch that's new, though. Like, I wouldn't rewatch it over something else. That's just me.
Okay.
But you would.
8.5.
That's okay. You liked it more than I did.
I did.
Next up, we started a new show and watched the first season of Space Force.
Yeah.
And I haven't really heard anyone talk about this show yet, and I haven't, like, spoken to any, like, friends about it. I don't know who's watched this yet. But I'm going to let you talk about it first.
Man, Space Force, it had a rough start. I think that because it was a brand new show, no one knew what to expect. And I think the show itself tried to figure out what it was going to focus on, what it was going to establish in the first few episodes. So it really kind of took a while to get off. I'd say past maybe even like the 4th or 5th episode. It was kind of when it started taking its own. It took a while. But really the main drive to watch it was Steve Carell. And we're huge Office fans. So, yeah, Steve Carell was the driving factor to watch it. I think that... I'm definitely excited to continue watching it once the next season comes.
I think it might get good.
Yeah, because towards the last half of Space Force was awesome. It was amazing. Very reminiscent of the type of humor that you'd see in Arrested Development. There's ongoing jokes that come or bits that continue to make the show funnier and funnier once they get repeated.
Inside jokes,
running jokes. But just the delivery is amazing too. And that of course is the actors that are involved. So the comedy is great. It's very kind of subdued and, what's the word that I'm looking for? It's kind of like
understated.
Yeah. Understated. Like, I mean, it's got, Patrick Warburton, so if you know his kind of delivery and the way that he
dry.
Very dry and awesome, and it's great. So
it's got some big people in it.
Yeah, it does.
It's got a lot of big people
quite the cast. So I'm enjoying it quite a bit. And I'll rate the first season. I just rated Mad Men. Shoot, what? Space Force is not a classic like Mad Men in my opinion, but it's good. Oh, jeez.
It's well done.
It's really well done. I give it an 8.5. Just because we haven't yet seen where this is going to go entirely.
Yeah.
And it did take a while to get to the point where I enjoyed it now.
Episodes yet.
It took a while to get to the point where I enjoyed it fully. So, yeah, 8.5.
I agree with that assessment. If I had only watched the first episode and used that to decide whether or not to continue, I don't think I would have continued necessarily. You have to give it a little bit of time. It's more of a feel that you have to get used to. Very similar to something like Arrested Development. It's quirky. It's very quirky. I'm already fondly remembering certain parts of it though, and I think that speaks to what it's capable of. So I'm excited to see kind of what this show can be, and hopefully it goes in a direction that we enjoy. But yeah, I'll give it an 8. I'm gonna give it an 8.
Yeah, and you know the 0.5 that I gave it, because I was thinking maybe 8 as well, but 8.5 because it could easily get towards a 9 or a 9.5.
It could.
Who knows?
It's just really early in it. I think it's hard to tell.
It's good.
But I've liked.
I enjoyed it.
A lot of what I've seen about it.
If you haven't seen it.
Yeah, you just
give
gotta
it time.
Try it for yourself. It's not everyone's humor either. So.
But they're short episodes.
They're very
that makes
short.
it very accessible.
That is nice.
Yeah.
It's nice to have like that 30-minute episode again, rather than like the hour-long ones.
Mad Men episodes, yeah.
Yeah, those were.
They were long.
Next up, let's talk about the movies that we watched this month. We surprisingly didn't watch that many, but first we watched Avengers: Age of Ultron. And I really liked this one because I think the villain is the most compelling part of this Avengers movie. Who's the actor again? I forget his name. Spader?
James Spader.
James Spader is so good. It's funny how he's so very typecast as a villain all the time, but it's because he's so good at it. So that really made Avengers: Age of Ultron, for me, it was him and his performance.
Yeah, the villain is what makes this particular Avengers movie really great. James Spader's delivery is excellent. His acting is great. He does have a way of how he acts and he speaks that stays the same, but it really fit well with this character. I also enjoyed watching Jarvis quite a bit and seeing him develop more as a character since he was recently introduced in the previous Avengers movie.
Yeah, we get more of Jarvis.
Yeah, so we get a little bit more of him. And also the relationships between Banner and Tony Stark are always great to watch. So, no, I enjoyed it. I would give Age of Ultron an 8, and I'm giving everything 8.5. It's an 8.5. A solid 8.5.
Okay. Yeah, I just realized I forgot to rate it. Yeah, okay, I'll go with that. 8.5. Anything else? I don't have anything else to say about that one. Eloquent.
Uh-huh.
Next up, we watched Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. Would you like to...
Oh, gosh.
Already, you can tell what we think about it already. It was real bad. I have to give Maleficent props for being so visually stimulating. Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful movie, and it obviously has the Disney shine on it, and it's just very eye-popping. It's eye candy. But from a story perspective, even some of the visual effects were not great. It was really poorly executed, I should say. The story is very predictable, very typical. You can pretty much predict everything from the beginning half of the movie. You kind of know what's going to happen. The ending is way too drawn out, and it does that weird thing where it has like the fairies and the mythical creatures are CGI'd differently than like the humans, and they have this like weird cheap quality looking to them. I don't know how to like talk about this effectively. A movie person probably could, but it gives this cheap quality to it when you have the little like sprites that look a little bit too weird in the face. Like they're like, made, I don't know.
They're made from actual like people faces.
They look
but they're
too fake and also too real at the same time.
It's weird.
It's a weird. Yeah. It's like the Uncanny Valley kind of feeling that you get. This movie to me was just so poorly executed. I'm giving it a 4, which is maybe the lowest I've given a movie so far.
Ooh,
it was bad.
A 4? Warwick Davis, isn't it?
Do you like Warwick Davis?
I do. He's great.
From Willow.
Willow off good. There's not much to redeem it. And the reason why I don't like it is because very predictable. I felt nothing when it tried to be serious and characters were dying. And I was just like, seriously? I didn't feel anything.
I didn't feel anything.
But everybody's like,
fine,
oh,
you can die,
and they're all
fine.
like, I'm like, whoa, you just barely introduced that character. No one cares about him.
That's true. Everybody's like, oh, this character. Like, who was it?
Oh, man.
Who was this person?
It sucked. It was bad. So...
It was poorly done.
And also, spoiler alert. Although I don't recommend watching it. At the end, Maleficent is destroyed, and I'm like, well, she's destroyed. And sure enough, she comes back. Because of like her daughter's tears made her. It was a Disney moment.
So what we call that on BookTube is a resurrection trope.
That's awesome.
That's how a lot of us feel about resurrection tropes.
Yeah,
they're not
that
good.
was it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. A resurrection trope. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm. There's a resurrection trope.
An RT.
And those are never fun.
Nah.
They just ruin everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the ice cream I ate during watching that movie, though.
Ice cream that you ate was the best
ice
part.
cream was 10. I rate the ice cream
10. Okay. Next up, we watched a much better movie, and that was Ant-Man. Ant-Man was a lot of fun, I thought. Ant-Man was a good time. I enjoyed the action sequences in Ant-Man so much more than I usually enjoy action sequences because of the interest of him being so small and, like, everything else being so big. I thought it was really fun. I actually enjoyed the action sequences, like, almost more than anything else in the movie. But also the humor in it is very funny. It's very funny. I'm going to give it a 9.5 rating because I would watch this definitely multiple times.
Yes. Ant-Man. I just want to watch it again right now.
Paul Rudd is good.
It's so funny. It's great. What can I say? Really enjoyable, really fun. If just watch it. Highly recommend it. And I didn't really know what to expect. I was expecting it not to be that good. Mm-hmm. And it actually blew my expectations out of the water completely. It was awesome.
Me too. I think having low expectations maybe helped us enjoy it a lot more.
Yeah.
But it's good.
It's not a masterpiece of a movie by any means, but it's fun. Very enjoyable.
It's a fun time. It's a fun summer flick.
I give it a 9.
The next one I want to let you talk about because you're a big fan of this director. So we watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Any Tarantino movie that comes out, I watch. And there was a time where I would just buy it before even watching it, just to own it. So I'm a huge Tarantino fan. I even own some of his lesser known movies with Robert Trujillo, the double feature that he made with Death Proof. So yeah, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I was so excited to watch it in the theaters, and for one reason or another, we never got to see it. And then COVID hit, like everybody knows, nothing happened, and I couldn't even get it on the discount theaters that sometimes we go to catch movies that we don't get to see on the big screen that costs a lot more. So, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, had to wait for it on DVD, and it was awesome. I did read a few reviews that were very mixed. Some people did not enjoy it as much as other Tarantino movies. The reason I enjoy Tarantino movies is because I really like his scripts. I love his dialogues. There's a lot of talking. And if you don't enjoy movies with good written talking, don't watch it. But if you do and you enjoy Tarantino's style, it's great. I also like the homage that he pays to Hollywood of the era of the 70s, and it does really feel like this is most of the things that Tarantino does as a tribute and an homage to his influences are done with high respect. Like, he deeply appreciates, and it's very heartfelt for him. And you can see that in this movie as well. For the 70s era of filmmaking, it's there. And there's also the awesome stuff that are in the Tarantino universe, like the red apple cigarettes that you see in Pulp Fiction. Some of those things come back, like the little lobby feature in the drive-in scene. That's off of Death Proof in the double feature with Robert Trujillo. So, yeah, for Tarantino fans, you're going to see a few Easter eggs throughout the movie. But I think it was really well done. The acting was excellent. I really enjoyed watching both Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio working together. And I just enjoyed it. And there's not a whole lot of blood and guts and gore like there is in some of his other ones until the end. Until the end, he delivers, and it was like, oh wow, and it's with his kind of humor delivery as well. So, I give this a 9. I would seldom give Tarantino movies less than that, and it deserves it. It deserves it, I think.
Yeah. Now that I've seen a few Tarantino movies, I'm not as well versed as Julio is in them, but now that I've seen a few, I've grasped the style a lot more, and I think this one is just a really good example of his style. And I know we were watching some of the, what do you call them, bonus features on the DVD, mm-hmm. and they're talking about the production, and a few of the actors were saying this is a love letter to Hollywood from him, and there's a lot of just really important places that he features and just a lot of history that is very close to his heart, and that really comes across well in this movie. So I loved finding out about that, and it makes me see it from a different perspective, that it is a snapshot of old Hollywood, and that's what he was going for. Mm-hmm. And definitely, if you don't know, I have to disclaimer it, because if you don't know Tarantino, it's definitely not for everyone. It's very adult content, and the violence there's always an incredibly violent scene, and it definitely is not for everyone, and you may not want to watch it. So just go into it with that in mind. If you're already a Tarantino fan, don't miss this one, because I think it's really good, and I was surprised that it got such low ratings by a lot of different critics. I don't think it deserves that. Mm-hmm. I think it's much better than I'd heard people talk about it. Mm-hmm. It was good. For a Tarantino, it was good.
What's your rating?
Oh, I'm gonna give it a 9 too.
Solid.
It's a movie I would watch again in his universe. Mm-hmm. Definitely. And there are some of his movies that are so hard to watch.
Yes.
That I wouldn't watch it again, like Django. I don't think I could ever make myself watch it again.
Actually, what I was thinking when I said it's not as gory as some of his other ones.
Django is hard.
Django is what I thought. I'm like, oh my gosh, that is difficult to watch.
It's also the subject
Inglourious
matter
Bastards was really hard to watch because of those scenes as well.
Oh, I never saw that one.
Yeah.
So this isn't on that level at all.
Right.
This is a little bit more enjoyable in that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're a Tarantino fan, you should definitely watch this movie. Next up, we watched Captain America: Civil War. Now, at this point, we are watching Marvel movies that we haven't seen. We have, not seen any of the new ones. So, Captain America: Civil War was new for both of us. And just the more they're going on, the more fun they are. And I also noticed them getting just funnier also. And this one just tried to cram in as many heroes as possible into one movie. And we also are introduced to Spider-Man in this one, which I thought was a really fun aspect of it too. The story was maybe a little bit convoluted for me at times. I wasn't always paying attention super well either. I think I was doing other things while I was watching it. But I think the appeal of this movie is all the Avengers together and then Spider-Man 2. I think that's kind of the novelty of this movie.
I'm really starting to like Marvel movies at this point, and being able to watch them from the first release, the modern release, with Iron Man, to this point now, Captain America: Civil War, they're really well done. I'm
liking them more and more as we're watching them.
And what's impressive is that they're not directed by the same person. They're directed by multiple people, and each movie has kind of its own quirks. And this one in particular did feel like an Avengers movie because there were so many different characters. So, of course, Ant-Man comes back, and there's Ant-Man, there's Spider-Man was awesome to be there. Black Panther as well.
Yes, everybody. It was
great, and it was really enjoyable to see all of these all of these characters interacting with each other, especially with Strife. Some are on.
Yeah, they're fighting.
Yeah, if you haven't seen these movies, there's a strife and there's a rift between the Avengers. So there's side A and side B, and there's a civil war. So yeah, it was great to see that. I think that that aspect was done well. They're fighting for what they believe in to be true. They have their own convictions, but they're still friends, and I think that's what makes part of the storytelling and the delivery of the story enjoyable. Captain America: Civil War should just be called The Avengers: Captain America: Civil War.
It doesn't feel like a Captain America movie.
It's an Avengers movie. And 8.5.
Okay, me too.
8.5.
I support that. And finally, the last movie we watched was The Two Towers. And I had just finished reading it, so I wanted to watch the movies. We won't talk about Return of the King yet because we watched that in July, technically. So a lot of people don't enjoy The Two Towers as much because of its pacing. And it does have that, middle movie syndrome, I think. You're just following, people are traveling, they're trying to get from point A to point B. There's just a lot of that in The Two Towers. However, I think the most fun part of The Two Towers is Gollum and the scenes with Gollum's kind of split personality. Those are so well done, and that's what I always look forward to while watching that movie, because it's just really interesting to watch, and they did it really well. And so he gets more of a spotlight in this movie for sure. What's the actor's name? Andy Perkins?
I don't know.
Perkins?
Perkins?
No, it's not Perkins. It's like Perkins.
That's
Andy Perkins.
Andy Bernard.
And Perkins. But anyways, Gollum gets a much bigger spotlight in this movie. Mm-hmm. I also enjoy the Ents and the way that they're done visually too. They're really just beautiful CGI. Even for the time, I always forget how long ago that movie was made, and the CGI still looks really good. They must have put a lot of money into it.
That would have been 17 years ago.
It's early 2000s, and for that, it's really good CGI. Surprisingly good.
Almost 20 years ago now? Oh my gosh.
You're getting old.
Considering that it's almost 20 years old, it does age pretty well. Mm-hmm. There are some stuff that are like, okay. Now looking back to it 20 years ago, the CGI was definitely not what it is now.
There's a couple moments that I was like, that looks kind of strange.
Yeah, but even now, like, you have poor quality CGI like Maleficent. I think it's going to age into a great classic. Yeah, it does have that middle movie syndrome, and I think I might fall into that camp of maybe even leaning on the boring part of, like, just...
it can be.
There's not a whole lot that happens to move the story forward.
There's a lot of development,
yeah,
but not a lot of moving forward.
There's, like, backstory, telling of things. There's no sense that I get that they're still moving to Mordor. And at the end of the first movie, absolutely, they're leaving the Shire, they're going to Rivendell, they're moving through. You only see large scenes of small movement, very long scenes. And I still think at the very end of The Fellowship of the Ring, where Sam and Frodo stand and look over to see where Mordor is, I'm like, man, they still have such a long way to go.
You get that sense from the movies.
And at the end of this movie, they still have such a long way to go. So, yeah, it does move slow, but there are bits and pieces of it that are great. And overall, the Lord of the Rings trilogy is excellent. So it does still carry a lot of the same things that make the first and the last, well, to make this series great. So, I won't rate it as high as the other two in the trilogy, but it deserves nothing less than a 9. I think
9.5 for me. It's still Lord of the Rings. It gets 9.5.
Absolutely.
I think I might have given the first movie a 10 though, because I think the initial introduction of everything is so well done. Excellent. It's very well done. They do a good job of hooking you on the first movie, I think. And yeah, I don't think it's Two Towers' fault that the story is the way it is, because that's Tolkien's fault.
Tolkien's fault.
But yeah, so they still did an amazing job with the movie. Yeah, absolutely. All right, that is everything that we watched in the month of June. Let me know down below what you think about any of these movies,
or what did you watch in June? Yeah, comments below.
You're getting good at this video thing, aren't you?
We'll see.
All right. Thank you for watching today. Be sure to subscribe if you want to keep up with us and also with Julio, because he will appear in more videos in the future. Thank you for watching today. Bye-bye.
Bye. What now?
So usually
we just chat.
I'm thinking. This is how we film. We just talk and then we think.
Let's start from the list.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna explain something real quick. Yeah. All right, next up. Oh, I don't have to pick that up. I can just see it.
But if you've never seen Mad Men and you're expecting, I don't know what you would expect watching Mad Men. What would you rate?
Oh, Ant-Man? Gosh, I'm gonna give it
I'm gonna give it a.
I'm gonna give it a. I'm gonna cut a lot of this. Probably do some bloopers on this one.
Maybe.
I'll do a blooper reel. Next up, we did
Captain America.
We did Captain America. That's it.
That's it?
Yeah.
Wow.